A captain accidentally flashes 2 brand new flight attendants, a hooker tricks herself to get into my hotel room, and a bunch more in this episode of Cockpit Confessionals. Coming up. Hey 7-4 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel 7-4 Gear is all about aviation. Now in this series, a lot of times I tell a story in first person, even though they are not me. I don't know the people involved or anything like that. A lot of times these stories are sent to me through Instagram. So if you have a funny story about being part of a flight crew or cabin crew, send me a message on Instagram. That's the easiest way. You can write it down or you can send me a voice message. Either way, send that to me and who knows, maybe it ends up in this story. But again, I am not part of any of these. I don't know these people. I'm not involved in any way.
Sound like some bullshit to me.
If you can imagine adults living their best life, that was definitely me at the regionals. And that's because I was very good at bidding. I knew how to bid and work on the system to get the types of trips that I wanted. And what happened is that I would have flight attendants who liked working with me that would bid onto my schedule. And they would bid to work with me and we would have cool, fun overnights. Sometimes you'd have 30 hours in some fun city and that meant you could go out. Now I also prefer to work in the afternoon because in the regionals it seemed like the schedules were either the very early morning flights, so like 6 a.m. or you'd start at like 2. Now I'd rather work till 2, finish at 10, go out and wake up whenever I felt like it and have breakfast and do all that stuff. So I would always bid for trips in the afternoon and trips that had long layovers. That's what I liked, and these flight attendants would bid onto my schedule. And because I would wake up late, I would be well rested and ready to go and fly, and what would happen is we'd show up to the plane, and a lot of times we'd show up and get all of our work done, and once all of our work was done, I would do this. I would get my phone out, whatever cool song that was happening that you would maybe hear in a club or a bar, whatever, I would get that, and I'd grab the PA system. Now the PA system is where you always hear pilots doing That PA system is how we make all of our announcements, which is a speaker system throughout the plane. So we'd be up in the front of the plane, getting the plane ready to go fly. And once we were done with all that, the flight attendants usually had more stuff to do in the back, so they were getting their stuff ready. I'd grab my phone, grab the PA, put them together, and then I would start playing fun music that you'd hear in a bar or nightclub. Now from the flight deck, you could turn around and actually see the flight attendants, and they usually would start laughing. Some of them would start dancing, depending on the crew you were with. And you could have some fun while you're waiting for the passengers aboard. Sometimes you have 20 or 30 minutes till the passengers are ready to start getting on the aircraft. So sometimes I would do that because I would find it fun and everybody puts everybody in a really good mood. Like I said, I usually start my trips later in the day, and in this case it was about 5 o'clock, so the sun was already low in the sky. It was getting close to winter time, and I decided to start playing music. And in my infinite wisdom and my attempts to be a DJ, I decided I would play music, but also I would start flashing the lights like I was in a nightclub. So here I am, flashing lights of this plane. It's 5 o'clock, it's dusk, and that means this plane, you can see the lights turning on and off. So these rampers, who are the guys who push the plane back and help load the plane and do all that stuff on the ground there, they see the lights flashing on and off this plane and they think maybe there's a problem. So there I am, flashing lights, playing the music, not really paying attention to what's going on. I look over and there's a flight attendant, we'll call her Mia. Mia is standing there with her feet on both sides of the aisle, and she is twerking in the middle of the aisle like she's getting paid for it. And if you've seen some of my other Cockpit Confessional stories, you know that maybe she was getting paid for it at one time or another. So we're all out laughing and having a good time, and here comes these 2 rampers running up to the plane because they see it flashing. They think maybe there's a short circuit. So as they run onto the plane, I stop playing the music right away and take it off the PA system, and Mia turns around and is like, and then she turns around and sees these 2 rampers there, and the rampers look at me and they're like, Cap, no, keep playing the music. No, we don't want this to stop. Anyways, I kicked them off the plane. We decided to board the plane and get out of there early, but we started laughing about it. And then later that night, we let Mia go out and twerk, not in uniform of course, but twerk and get drunk and have a good time. This story happened when I was a brand new pilot on the 747. I had just flown, I think, 13 hours. I'd gotten to the city around 3 in the morning. Now, this city is known for being a huge party city. We got there, we got in this really nice hotel, and I was the last one to check in. Sometimes what happens when you check in is the crew will do it based off seniority. That's not always the case, but in this case it was. I was the last guy, the other crews had already left and gone upstairs, and I was the last guy to get my hotel key, and so I got into the elevator, and as the door of these elevators open, I see this girl who looks like a lady of the night. Now, I'm not judging this profession or the people that engage in people who work in this profession, but I was very, very tired after this long day. And so I get into the elevator and she's like, "Ooh, a pilot," which is what a lot of you think it's like everywhere you go, but it's not always that way. She was drunk and, of course, looking for some money. So I get into the elevator and I'm tired and I'm new and I'm not really paying attention. So I put my key in and I start going up to my floor and she starts asking me all these questions. Where'd you come from? Blah, blah, blah. And starts asking me, kind of engaging me in a conversation. Now she's drunk. It's 3 a.m. She's leaving the hotel room alone. So I think kind of we know what had already happened. So as the doors to the elevator open for my floor, I realize that she has not pushed any of the buttons for a floor to go to. And she's supposed to be leaving and I'm going up. So she was obviously leaving to go out, but as soon as I walked in, she thought maybe she'd get a second client. So as I walk out, she starts following me and keeps trying to engage in a conversation. And I'm kind of like unsure what to do here because I don't want to be rude and I'm just kind of like making small talk. But then I ask her, "Where are you going?" She was like, "Oh, I've had a long night and I was going to take a cab back home, but we should just hang out for a little bit tonight." And I was like, "Listen, I'm very tired. I'm disgusting. I need to take a shower. I'm done. So I definitely don't have any time to spend with you, and I don't have any cash." She goes, "You're a pilot. You have some money." I was like, No, I have no money. I have nothing to give you." And she's like, "All right, it's fine. Tomorrow. You can pay me tomorrow. I don't really care." And I'm like, "No, there's no money. I don't have any money to give you." Now this conversation goes down this long hall until I get to my room. And so now she's standing at my door. I've opened up my door and put my bag in the room. And she goes, "Look, it's fine. I understand you don't have any money. Let's just hang out. Let's just have a drink. Let's have a drink in your hotel room." I'm like, "No, we're not doing that. We're not having any drinks. We're not doing anything. You can go back and you can leave." So I think that I've now solved this problem. As I go in the door and I'm getting ready to close it, she says, "Hey, can you look at this real quick?" And as I turn around as the door is closing, she's standing there in the hallway with just her miniskirt and no top on. No bra, nothing. So there I am, and there's a girl outside of my hotel room door, topless, at 3 a.m, and I'm in uniform. I said, "Ma'am, you need to put your shirt on right now. You can't be standing out here." She said, "Well, the only way I'm going to put my shirt on is if you let me in the room there so I can see and make sure that I have everything situated correctly. That's the only way I'm going to do it." I'm like, "No, you can't come in. I can't do it." She's like, "Well, I'm just going to stand out here in the hallway and knock on the door until you let me in." So me, not really thinking this out very clearly and being tired, I said, okay, fine. Come in, but we're not doing anything." And I know what you're thinking. That was the dumbest move ever, but that's what happens when you're tired and you've been awake for 16 hours and you're a brand new co-pilot on the 747. You don't always make the best decisions. So she goes in the bathroom to hopefully put her shirt back on. I decide to change out of my uniform shirt and take off my tie and put everything away. And I decide, okay, I'll just wait for her to get out and then I can go take my shower and then go to sleep. So she comes out and she goes, "Oh, I missed it. You took your shirt off? Come on, now take your pants off." I'm like, no, we're not doing this right now. So she keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And I go, "Look, I have no money. I lost my wallet. I don't have anything. I'm going home tomorrow to get my credit cards and get my money and all that stuff. I'm having it all sent to me in Alaska." Now, that wasn't true. I had cash. I had my wallet. I had everything on me. But I thought if she thought there was no way she'd get paid, she would probably leave. And luckily, that worked. So she said, "Okay, that's fine. I understand." And so she said, "But I don't know how to get out to the lobby to get out of here. I've never been in this hotel." And to her point, it was a little bit of a tricky situation with the layout of the hotel. So I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll walk you out and I'll show you how to get to the elevator and get out and I'll punch a floor in for you." Now, this girl is clearly a lady of the night. And so we're walking to the elevator and we're just making small talk because I'm just kind of that person. I'll just talk to whoever. And so we're just talking and we walk over to the elevator. I hit the button. I'm waiting for the elevator to come up. And now keep in mind, I'm in a casual shirt, my uniform pants, uniform shoes, all this stuff. And to another pilot, it's very easy to see that's a pilot. You got another casual shirt on, uniform pants, uniform shoes. It's very obvious. And in this particular city and in this particular hotel, it was very obvious that I was a pilot and just out not working. So now it's 3-something in the morning. The door opens to the elevator. And who's standing there? Another pilot in full uniform. And he looks at me, looks at me up and down, looks at my clothes, knows that I'm a pilot, then looks over at the girl, knows what she is, and he just looks back at me and he just smiles. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so uncomfortable if this guy's on my next crew. So I walk in the elevator, I push -2 or -2 or whatever the floor was to get out of this hotel. I walk in and she's like, thanks baby, you're the best. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Just here you go, get in the elevator. And as she walks in, I look back at the guy and he's smiling at me, just looking, thinking he knows everything that's just happened. Like, it looks like I did something that I shouldn't have been doing, right? Anyway, so I went back into my room, went to sleep, and all I could think of the next day when I was meeting my crew is, please not that guy, please not that guy, please not that guy. Now, if you're one of the first people to get onto a plane, you may notice that there are sometimes some bags over the emergency or somewhere else on the plane. And that's because the crew, when we get on the plane, that we'll put our bags there. We usually don't put them in first class. We usually put them over the emergency row because it's kind of towards the middle of the plane, but not all the way in the back, so you have to haul them all the way forward. So that's usually where you'll see a couple of bags, and that's usually flight crew bags that are there. Now, between flights at the regionals, we would always hang out in the cabin area. We would hang out, eat snacks, and talk, and laugh, and whatever. That's just, you know, you can kind of imagine working with me. That's kind of how it's going to go. So we were hanging out back there just talking. It was me and 2 flight attendants. We were just hanging out there talking, and the captain walked onto the plane. So he was bringing his bag back to put it into the overhead so he could go check out all the work and make sure everything was set up so we could do our flight. Now, if you don't know this about the airlines, usually when you're doing typical airlines, you'll work for 4 to 5 days, but typically 4. You'll have a 4-day trip, and at the 4th day, at some airlines, you can be what's called involuntarily extended, meaning they can work you for another day or sometimes 2 days. And that is something that really sucks because if you're planning on going home and you're planning on being done with work, and then you get a call that says, hey, by the way, you're doing this extra trip, you don't really have any recourse, you have to do it. And that's what happened to this captain here. So here's the setup. You got 2 flight attendants, one sitting on each side of the row, and then you have me 2 rows back, and I'm sitting there talking with the flight attendants. And I'm talking with this one flight attendant, and all of a sudden I hear the other flight attendant scream,
My eyes! My two vulnerable eyes!
and then I see the captain fall over into the row behind her seat, and I'm like, what just happened? I look at her face, and she's got this shocked look on her face. She's covering her mouth. She's like, oh my God, oh my God. And the captain's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Well, here's what had happened. The captain had been extended. So because he got extended, he ran out of the clothes that he thought he was going to need for his trip because he thought he was going to work for 4 days, and it ended up being 6 days. Now, we were on day 6 that he had to do 1 leg and then he was going home. And he thought because he had no clean clothes, he would just go to work commando because all he had to do was 1 flight and he could go home. Well, this captain had also lost about 30 pounds. He'd been working out a lot to get fit and get healthy, which you have to respect someone that takes their health as a priority. So he started exercising, getting healthy, and he lost a bunch of weight, and so his belt didn't exactly fit him anymore. So when he went to put his bag above the seats in the overhead there, his pants fell down and he was fully commando. Now, I've mentioned this before, but in aviation, you almost never, ever want to have a nickname. Obviously, that doesn't apply if you're a fighter pilot or a few other rare occasions, but typically in aviation, if you have a nickname, it's never very good. And if you want to know what this guy's nickname was, well, we called him Captain Commando. And speaking of commandos, if you want to see some commandos board a 747, you're going to want to check out this video right here. And if you want to see something a little bit funnier, you're going to want to watch this one up here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.